Love and Death, My Journey Through the Valley of the Shadow, by Forrest Church. A Beacon Press audiobook, read by the author.
Introit. Although I've delivered some 1,000 sermons on almost as many discrete topics, one way or another, each circles back to a single theme. This tendency, I'm told, is not uncommon. Every minister worth his or her salt has at least one great sermon in them. It's no wonder we return, as often as we do, to its familiar music and uplifting chords. Even church administrators pick up on their boss's penchant to repeat themselves. In certain instances, they have little choice. Doubtless to restore his soul, one of my storied colleagues, James Madison Barr of Memphis, Tennessee, had a habit of disappearing periodically, especially on Mondays and Tuesdays, when the office staff was composing and printing the weekly church newsletter. At the top of each newsletter, they included the sermon title for the following Sunday and a brief précis of its theme. Whenever Dr. Barr was missing in action, and necessity forced the Memphis church administrator to be creative, she listed his forthcoming sermon as follows: The Great Mystery, James Madison Barr preaching. What Dr. Barr will be preaching about this Sunday is a mystery, but we're certain it will be great. Great or no, my recurring sermon, too, is rich with mystery. Time and again I return to the abiding theme of love and death. I have preached on this theme more times than I can number, almost from the outset of my ministry until today, some 30 years later. I have woven its essence into countless memorial services, including my father's funeral and the service we held the day after 9/11, and unpacked it in several books. Variations on the theme of love and death sound from my heartstrings. Death is central to my definition of religion. Religion is our human response to the dual reality of being alive and having to die. We are not the animal with advanced language or tools, as much as we are the religious animal. Knowing that we must die, we question what life means. The answers we arrive at may not be religious answers, but the questions death forces us to ask are, at heart, religious questions. Where did I come from? Who am I? Where am I going? What is life's purpose? What does all this signify? Death is not life's goal, only life's terminus. The goal is to live in such a way that our lives will prove worth dying for. This is where love comes into the picture. The one thing that can't be taken from us, even by death, is the love we give away before we go. Today, I turn to the dual theme of love and death with a new sense of urgency. On February 4th, 2008, I informed the members and friends of All Souls Unitarian Church in New York City, whose destiny and mine have been linked for so many years, that my esophageal cancer, first diagnosed and treated in the fall of 2006, had returned with a vengeance, and that my time remaining was likely to be numbered in months, not years. I won't predict how my body will hold up during the course of treatment, I wrote, but I can tell you what I hope to do. Though all of our stories end in the middle, with ongoing business piled high, I should like to end my story, if I may, by summing up my thoughts on love and death in a book that might bring as much comfort to others as you have brought to me. In it I shall share what I have learned from you during the last 3 decades I have been privileged to serve as your minister. Time and again, at your loved ones' deathbeds and together in my study, we have struggled to wrench meaning from loss, seeking to find our way through the valley of the shadow, rarely acknowledging to yourselves or even sensing your great courage and remarkable insight. On occasions such as these, you have taught me the lessons of a lifetime. You are now hearing that promised book, at once a summation of my life's recurring theme and my personal journey down the road of love and death. My journey began sweetly, me curled up in my bed listening to my grandmother gently remind me, if I should die before I woke, to give the Lord my soul. I doubt that it will end that sweetly, but the comfort lingers. As your guide here, and mine too, for I embark on this quest to test my heart's wisdom, I shall lead you through my life's most significant passages. My best friend's death when we were both 19, my father's death 6 years into my ministry, and my parishioners' deathbeds, where I so often experienced love's triumph. I shall explore the ways in which love and death charged my books and sermons with meaning, my millennial breakthrough in kicking the bottle and rediscovering God, the impact of 9/11 on my life and ministry, my dress rehearsal for death when cancer first struck, and the shifting sands I stand on now in the months leading up to my final reckoning. My valedictory sermons to my congregation encapsulate all I have learned about love and death, and will serve as a fitting summation of my beliefs. I shall close with a theological coda, asking where God is when the boom falls, share my thoughts on life after death, and express my abiding belief in love after death. Since my parishioners have taught me so much of what I've learned about love and death over the years, let me begin our journey by quoting one of them. On receiving the letter telling of my cancer's return, a long-time parishioner who has known her full share of death wrote me of her heartache. "My heart has been broken again," Camille wrote, "and for that I am overwhelmingly thankful. Without love, this would not be possible." Part 1. The Journey. Chapter 1. A Life That Did No Death. I didn't live with death as a child, but it was a constant visitor to my home. My earliest memory, doubtless fabricated from later stories, but real nonetheless, is of my mother Bethine nursing my father Frank through what everyone then thought was terminal cancer. I was a toddler at the time, so the image is surely one fragment of a patchwork quilt of collective memory that also found me lovingly passed back and forth from the arms of my parents' friends to those of my great-aunts during much of my early childhood. We returned to Boise, Idaho from Palo Alto, California when I was 2. My father in recovery and our tiny nuclear family tucked snug into a tiny house on Logan Street, where I popped tar bubbles in the driveway on hot summer days and roamed the neighborhood with my friends, playing Indians and cowboys. As the eldest of our little band, whether as a chief or a cavalryman, I was killed in those mock battles less often than they were, but death was certainly the centerpiece of our play. When I was 5, my parents sold our house to help finance my father, Frank Church's, campaign for the U.S. Senate, and we moved in with my maternal grandparents. It was there that I witnessed my first death, that of my grandmother's father, Alexander Burnett, from emphysema at the age of 95. Before he entered his death throes, my grandfather, Chase Clark, and I would visit him occasionally in his one-room cabin on the outskirts of Boise City. The two men would play pinochle as I took in the strange smells and sorted through the oddities of this laconic old man's house. As I remember, and my memory is as undependable as the Idaho weather, his 3 major food groups were tobacco, baked beans, and whiskey. The two men played in silence. He called me Chatterbox. During the final 2 months of his life, Alexander Burnett and his enormous oxygen tank moved into my grandparents' home, where he took up residence on the living-room couch. Every day he grew weaker, and if at all possible quieter, and then, one Sunday afternoon, passed away surrounded by the family. The musty tang of his death is as vivid to me today as the smell of morning coffee. It was the most natural thing in the world. Every Christmas, the entire relatively small Clark Church family gathered at my grandparents' home for a week of festivities. Apart from a younger crippled cousin and her baby brothers, I was the only child for years until my brother Chase joined the family when I turned 9. My little cousin, who suffered from a severe genetic case of muscular dystrophy, took over my great-grandfather's couch. She, too, we all knew, was dying, if in her own sweet time. One Christmas, her couch was empty. Death had paid another visit to our home. I was raised as much by my grandmother as by my mother, who accompanied my father around the state for 2 years between the time I was 5 and 7, as they ran together for the Senate. Jean Clark raised me attentively and well. She took me on Sundays to her Presbyterian church and tucked me into bed every night, where she taught me to say my prayers. God bless Mommy, God bless Daddy.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?